expert, a thought leader, or a doer in the realm of innovation for the built environment. My name is Jeff Echols. I am a senior advisor and the head of marketing for Shadow Partners. And today's presentation is my conversation with CEO and founder of Shadow Partners, KP Reddy. KP and I talk about the VC versus corporate VC. Of course, VC being venture capital, but we talk about the different dynamics in the venture capital firm versus the corporate VC fund. It's an interesting conversation if you want to learn more about venture capital and how it flows through the AEC and the CRE world. So enjoy this conversation with KP, and I'll be back again tomorrow with another Shadow Short. Hey, welcome back to Shadow Shorts. If we've never met before, my name is Jeff Echols. I'm a senior advisor and the head of marketing for Shadow Partners. And every weekday, I bring to you an expert or a thought leader in the realm of innovation for the built environment. Today is certainly no different. I have with me the CEO of both Shadow Ventures and Shadow Partners, KP Reddy. And KP is one of the best, if not the best known thinker and doer in the realm of investing and innovating for the built environment. So KP, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Jeff.
We're going to do a little VC 101 today. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. I think when we're talking about topics, I always have a bias towards, the founders and their struggles, right? I've been in that struggle, so I appreciate their struggle. I've never owned a private jet, so I don't have those struggles. So I don't relate to those people nearly as well. So I think one of the questions that comes up is around venture capital, like classic venture capital firms versus corporate venture capital. And I think we see this a lot in terms of the founders not understanding. And quite honestly, sometimes the people that run the CVCs don't quite understand like their role in the ecosystem, because it is an ecosystem. And I think the best way to look at it is, objectives and motives. And we have CVCs that are actually investors in our funds. And so people say, well, why would they do that? Right? It's like, well, they want access to top tier deal flow. They want to see the stuff that they don't get to see. And so when I look at like motives and objectives for a VC, for us, we take in capital from limited partners. It's not our money. They give us their money. And we basically get paid for the appreciation of that fund. So it's typically a 10-year fund with a certain investment period. And then after we look at the wins and we subtract all the losses, whatever's left, we get a piece of that. It's called carry. What's interesting about that is we generally operate under the guise of, under the system of power law, which means 1 out of our 10 deals crush it and 9 of them go away, right? And so it's a different rubric that we operate. And our investors are looking for outsized returns. That is their primary objective. Is there strategic value? Yes. Do they get great access to knowing what's going on in the industry? Absolutely. Those are all perfectly well. But fundamentally, we all report to a CFO. Full stop. Like at the end of the day, we all report to a CFO. And the CFO is going to say, hey, we gave these guys this money. What happened? In the world of CVC, they really look at alignment to business and how does it affect their core business and how is it a beneficial piece of their business. It's very less about returns, nor do they have a lot of the typical things we have in place where like pay for performance is a big thing. They're generally corporate folks on salary and deploying capital. And a win to them could be they invest in 10 companies and 9 of them do really well. They do okay. They do good enough, but they're very beneficial to their business. And in fact, maybe your acquisitions, low-cost acquisition opportunities because they got in early. So the motives tend to be super swayed that way. And I think part of what that does is it creates massive, for the CVC, they tend to have pretty big selection bias. If a CVC is not an investor in other venture funds, they tend to be subjected to selection bias, meaning founders want to do business with firms like ours and our peer group, right? There's about 5 or 6 of us in our peer group. That's who they want to do business with. One, because we get the business, we have aligned interest with them on growth and goals. It's just like we think the same way they do. Once we all say no, then they start pitching the CVCs. So, because then they start realizing, like, well, we might not be a financial home run. That's why all these that's why all the VCs passed on us. But we might be a strategic home run for XYZ company. And then they start. So, what that does is it creates selection bias. So generally, CVCs, unless they have exposure through a venture firm and they're seeing the top tier deals and the most sought out deals, they're not going to see them. They're not going to see them. Founders know working with the CVC, they're corporate. They move slow. There's probably a process. There's a deal that we did. We met with the founders and we closed in 6 weeks. The CVC that had been looking at them for a year couldn't get it together. They just couldn't move. It took them a year. It's lots of approvals, lots of, So at the end of the day, no matter what a CVC says, they are subject to their internal process. That's just how it is. There's nothing good or bad about it. But what that does is it tends to attract startups that have kind of exhausted their other options and are looking for more of a strategic partner than an actual investor.
Okay. Can you give me an example? And maybe it's something that would surprise people, or maybe it's just, here's mainstream, but what's an example of a VC, a venture capital firm, versus a CVC, a corporate VC?
So I'll pick outside of our industry.
Okay, fair enough.
I either don't offend someone or promote someone, right? So
All right.
in the world of healthcare, you have VCs like our friends at General Catalyst. They're a mainstream VC. They manage $1 billion, and they invest in healthcare startups.
Okay.
There's also a CVC called Sandbox Healthcare that's funded by Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Okay.
So General Catalyst is just trying they have pension funds and people that invest with them. They just want to see outsized returns. They have to beat everybody else. Blue Cross Blue Shield might look at it and say, how is this affecting patient care? How's it going to help our business? Do we want to be early adopters of the technology? The difference is if your healthcare startup hits it out of the park, General Catalyst will just keep funding you. Right? They'll just keep funding you, and then they'll get more of their friends to fund you until you go public. A Blue Cross Blue Shield probably says, well, no, we're in. We're in. We got in. We're fine. We're fine. So they're not going to be a great financial partner going forward. They might give you insights, et cetera, but that's about it, right? They're not going to be a great financial partner. And also, a lot of times you have to worry with the CVC. Does the market, start to feel things about it? If a CVC that's tied to, call it a construction company or a building product company, name it, right? And you take money from them, do their competitors in the space view it differently? Oh, you're an investor with them. They're our competitor, right? I don't know if Blue Cross Blue Shield really competes. Maybe they compete with Humana or something, but whatever it is, all of a sudden, are you going to be precluded from really doing business with the competitors of the CVC? So you really have to think about, really have to think about like the broader effects of your business and what the optics look like.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's in a way it's down to marketing 101. It's a different context, but it's you're looking at your niche market, I suppose.
And I think there's also like we operate under winner takes all, right? So when I meet with the startup, I'm like, if you win, give me the list of people that we're going to destroy. Like I need to know who loses, because that tells me a lot about how you're thinking. It tells me a lot about the opportunity. A CVC may not. That's not the aggression that they're like, well,
right.
if it's helpful for the industry, if it does good things for the industry, fantastic. We should invest. So it's just a different mindset. I think I was telling you, like, if we're all skiing We're like downhill speed skiing, and CVCs tend to be cross country skiing.
Got it. Yeah.
Just a different
Yeah.
approach.
Yeah. I was having a conversation probably a couple of months ago now with someone from the industry. And so let me back up half a step because you said you'll pick a couple from outside the industry. So you went to healthcare, and that going outside makes sense for the context of this conversation. But Shadow Ventures is focused on innovation for the built environment. Many of the CVCs that we're alluding to, et cetera, they're engineering, they are building materials, they are construction, et cetera. I was having a conversation a couple of months ago with somebody from the industry at a pretty large firm, well, actually a very large firm, and they were curious about the CVC scenario, the CVC setup, and one of the questions was, well, why? Why would that construction firm or that engineering firm, why would they set up their own VC? So we've got construction firm PDQ, and PDQ VC is their corporate VC.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you were to have a conversation with somebody like that now, and you already partially answered this earlier, but somebody that's in the industry at a large firm, that's looking at technology and strategy, et cetera, why would you encourage them to think about, or would you encourage them to think about their own VC fund?
So one, we're really focused. A lot of our investors are strategic. They invest directly too. We're looking for grand slams. We would rather strike out. If we don't hit a grand slam, we're okay striking out. That is our.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean there's not a continuum of startups and businesses that are solid doubles and triples. We're going to always pass on those. But so for a corporate VC, they might say, look, this is a great company. They can probably get to 50 million in revenue and generate $5 million in cash flow, and we can get a dividend. By the way, in our world, we don't even know what a dividend is. That's not the world we live in, right? It's very binary outcomes for us. So for some CVCs, if they want to look at things like services companies, tech enabled type things, industrialized construction, we don't believe is venture fundable. It's not going to deliver. We're all chasing a Google type return, right? We're not going to get that out of an industrialized construction company, but to a corporate VC that's maybe part of a construction company or building product, that makes a ton of sense for them. It makes a ton of sense for them to invest. The other part of it is, I think for some people, and we see it less with CVCs, a little bit more with family offices, they want to save on fees. They're just being cheap. We take fees, right? We charge money to do our work. I can hire someone in-house, just graduated with an MBA, pay them a few bucks a year. They get a little bit of the upside, and I get to keep the rest. There is some of that mentality. So it's like, let's do it ourselves. We can do what they do, but do it cheaper.
That's funny. So if you are a leader at an AE firm or somebody somewhere in the AEC or real estate, which is really that's what we're looking at. That's where we are. And you're wondering about, okay, now I get it. We're looking for startups that may benefit us somehow. We're looking for startups that may be good for the industry. However we want to view and position that. How do you get started? Right? We've never invested in anything before. We don't even know how to set up the fund, the VC side. So where do we get started?
I mean, honestly, you talk to people like me. I mean, I think the beautiful thing about our industry is it's very collaborative, right? I mean, I think as much as I tend to be a fierce competitor, I think there's also a bigger mission at play, right? So I think talk to people that are doing it. Talk to other firms that are doing it, right? I mean, there's lots of firms that are doing it. You go talk to them and, hey, what's been your experience? For us, like I think it's like 95% of our investors are all referral based. We don't get people coming to our website wanting to. It's usually, hey, I was talking to this other CEO. They've really enjoyed working with you guys. We're trying to figure things out. We'd love to talk to you, right? That's usually what our world looks like. So I think ask lots of questions, talk to people outside of the industry, talk to VCs outside of the industry, um, talk to innovation people outside of the industry, and really look, because it's not trivial setting something up. We say, like, if you're going to set up a fund, you're a fiduciary. Like, it comes with overhead, compliance, lots of things that you need to be very serious about. And I think for corporate, there's a little bit like we might just want to outsource that. You know, whenever my view is do both, invest in venture funds and do some direct investing. That's my general point of view, is that a lot of our investors do that. And the reason being is, if we invest in a company that's construction focused, a lot of our construction LPs might want to double down, right? They're like, oh, we love that. Let's put more money against that one thing. But our commercial real estate people, they're like, I don't get it. I don't care. Right? I'm
Right.
glad you guys invested. We're happy for you, but it's not something that's exciting to me. Same thing if we invest in something that's commercial real estate oriented. I don't know that our engineering firm, investors care about it. Like, we don't care about that, right? So I think you do both. I think you do both, right? I think you want to do both. And then, one, you get a lot of exposure. We look at 50 deals a week. I talk to 10 startups a week. So and then we invest in like one a month. So think about all the people we say no to. It doesn't mean that they're bad businesses. They're just not a grand slam. But if it's a solid double, we send it over to one of our corporate partners and say, hey, look, we're passing on this because it's not a grand slam, but we think it's a pretty cool business and it might align really well with your core business. So you guys should look at investing in them directly. And so they kind of get best of both worlds.
Yeah, I like that distinction right there. And of course, as a baseball fan, it resonates really well. But the alignment with the core business on the CVC, the corporate VC side, I think that's, as we say, as you said, that becomes very important. The attitude of grand slam versus doubles and triples, that distinction makes a lot of sense as well. And and as you were talking about just a minute ago, we see a lot of I don't know if I can call it cross investing, but this fund and that fund and so on. So if you're out there and you're watching this and you're listening to this and you want to know more, right? You're curious. Oh, I didn't realize that there were engineering firms or construction firms, material suppliers, et cetera, that have their own corporate VCs. You might want to reach out. And I would also say, as KP mentioned earlier, having these conversations, that's a great segue to talking about Shadow Summit, which is coming up this fall, October 24th through 26th in Atlanta. A lot of the people that are investing in this space will be at Shadow Summit, right? They're there to speak. They're there to network. They're there to learn. To Not to put words in his mouth because he said it, but KP told me earlier this year. He said Shadow Summit 2023 is going to be a Cliff's Notes version of everything that's happened in terms of investing and innovation in the built environment during 2023, and also a preview of what to pay attention to, what to look forward to, and what to budget for in 2024. So go to shadowsummit.com for more info on that. Of course, KP will be there. I'll be there. Many of the LPs that he's mentioned before, and
Jeff,
others that
always
are investing in the
always
space.
remind people, 4 years ago at Summit, we were talking about the future of AI 4 years ago. So just saying, like, it's like old news. We're not even going to talk about it anymore. It's old news, right?
Well, I don't know if it's old news. It continues to evolve, but that is a really good point. It's the people that are going to be in the room, right? And I love this intersection, right? The innovation, the investing, built environment, all of this, and people that are going to be in the room, put quotes in the auditorium, I suppose, in all the rooms. They are the people that are looking at the future of the professions of the built environment and how we do it, how we deliver it, what it looks like, all of the things. So this will be a very rich conversation. We'll get deep in the weeds on a lot of these different topics that we'll talk about, whether it's housing shortage or labor gap or industrialized construction, as KP mentioned earlier. There's a lot that we have to talk about and set the course on for 2024. So
Jeff, one,
shadowsummit.com.
Jeff, one side note on that. I've had people ask, like, "Hey, KP, I heard that you personally review every application," and it's like, "Yes, I do." And they're like, "What? Like what? Like why? Like how do you have so much time?"
Yeah.
And my point is, like, I think community building is as much about giving as it is about taking. And I think for me, it's the people that I quote unquote, me and you talk about it, like letting people in. It's so much less. Some of it's title, some of it's stat, all that stuff. But it's literally like, are these people going to just take and leave the room, or are
Yeah.
they going to contribute? Because that's so important, right? I mean, just people that are going to show up and sit in the corner and take notes, less interest. I don't care who you are, right? If Warren Buffett wants
Yeah.
to come and he's going to sit in the corner and take, I'm not going to let him in, right? He's going to engage and give insights and create conversations. Then I'm excited, right? Then I'm excited for that person to be there. And I think that's like, someone asked me today, like, "Hey, like I got rejected. Why?" And I'm like, here's why. Like, I think you're just going to come take.
Yeah.
I don't think you're to give.
Yeah. That is an important distinction. And if you missed this part of the conversation, if you go to shadowsummit.com, there is a button at the top of the page where you apply to attend. You have to be approved in order to purchase a ticket to show up at Shadow Summit. And as KP is describing it, that is a distinction for this event, right? It is a summit. It is not a conference. It is a time for us all to get together and really imagine and set the agenda for innovation, for the built environment, for the architecture, the engineering, the construction, the real estate as we look towards 2024 and beyond. And so, you used the word collaborative earlier in the context of investing, which is the topic of this conversation, obviously, but Shadow Summit is incredibly collaborative. There are we've got 3 keynotes scheduled, and I believe it's 9 panel discussions that will have healthy Q&A sessions. So these are conversations. Right? This isn't the place to come get your learning units per se. Like a lot of other conferences. This is a place to come and engage in conversation and thought leadership.
Yeah, I've had a couple of people get mad that they got rejected.
Just blame it on me.
No, I'm just like, hey, sorry, like it's not personal. It's about fit, and and it's really it's that attitude of like really wanting to come and contribute and be part of it.
Yeah, it very much is. We want to tackle some of the biggest problems that are out there facing the built environment, and we need everybody to contribute and engage in the conversations. So with that, again, shadowsummit.com is where you find out more about our event, October 24th to 26th in Atlanta. And if you want to find out more about Shadow Ventures, you can go to shadow.vc. That URL is in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen right now. And there's also a button to submit your deck at shadow.vc and get added to that list of 50 in those conversations.
And by the way, Jeff, another one of those weird things, I look at all the submissions personally myself, and people are like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yes." Like, I have to focus on the important things. And when entrepreneurs are like sacrificing so much to try to build a business, I'm just not going to stick them in front of a 23-year-old as their first point of contact. Like, right. I just think it's disrespectful. So there's some weird things that I do, but there's a reason and a motive behind it.
You got to do the unscalable, right?
Yeah, sometimes.
Sometimes you do. All right. If you're watching this out there, we appreciate you, and we hope that we'll see you in Atlanta, or at least you'll apply to see us in Atlanta. Shadowsummit.com. And I'll be back tomorrow with another of these conversations with an expert or thought leader around innovation in the built environment. So until then, KP, thanks for joining me. Thanks for the Investing 101 session today. And KP, we're going to make this a regular series. KP will come back from time to time to talk about the ins and outs of venture capital, and especially in the AEC and our world. So KP, thanks for this, and we'll see everybody next time.